Hello and welcome to my review for the first episode of the latest series, The Americas, which is called The Atlantic Coast, and it's about, well, the Atlantic coast of the USA. Obviously, this is a new BBC wildlife series, however, it's also done in partnership with NBC in America, therefore this is a joint British and US production. Most of these series actually are, to a degree, but generally speaking, it is very much a British creation with some financing from America. This is very much split between, and you can kind of see where the split is. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit before I dive into the episode. So this series is narrated by Tom Hanks, not David Attenborough, who usually narrates all these massive landmark series. And going in, I was a bit apprehensive about that, purely because I find American narrators sometimes a little bit too enthusiastic in the narration. I feel like Attenborough's dispassionate narration is so iconic as well that it is kind of hard to imagine these series without him. I will say though that from this episode anyway, my worries about that have kind of been dispelled. I think Tom Hanks did a very good job in this episode, and he kind of was dispassionate. He didn't have an overly enthusiastic voice. He very much just told the story as Attenborough would, and I think he did a really good job here. I feel like anything that was quippy was something that they would do in a normal Attenborough series, to be perfectly honest with you. I feel like the script for this series was probably British. I didn't feel there was anything added in to make it more punchy or kind of optimistic. There was a couple times where I was like, okay, that's probably not realistic, but I get that in most BBC series, to be perfectly honest with you, so I liked that. And this series did also feel like an American production. The map, for instance, at the start, which shows you the part of the Americas that are going to feature, is not like the usual kind of satellite map that you'd get for a British series where we're kind of, just showing you the land masses. Here, everything was divvied up by country, by state, and we zoom into those things. So it did kind of feel like almost the sort of map you'd find in like the Wild West almost. It definitely felt more American, and in that sense, the tone of the series was a bit more American. So I think that having Tom Hanks as the narrator, or any real American to do the narration, really did help this, at least for this episode. I think if David Attenborough had done this series, it would have felt a little bit more tonally inconsistent a little bit. So we kind of start off with the intro of the series, showing you what it's going to be like, nothing we didn't really know from the trailer, and then we kind of see the first major bit of footage, which was the wild horses in the Appalachian. And basically we see these little islands that have formed, and these wild horses have ended up there, and we see two males fighting for a harem of females. This is one of the bits where I'd say the narration is a little bit kind of, a little bit more anthropomorphized, where they say that the male's fighting for his family. It's not really what's happening there. But it's a good sequence. It's not better than the one in Planet Earth 2 though. I will say that definitely was better. And I think that's something I'll say for a few things in this episode. There was footage that I had seen before and could compare to other series that maybe had done it better. But overall it was a good sequence. It was a good way of opening the series. And yeah, I still liked it. Well, there was a better version out there. I still enjoyed it, so it was good. Then we see that it's at the graveyard of the Atlantic. Off the coast, where we see all these sand tiger sharks congregating, and they're not a shark you really see. I don't think I've seen them before in a series, to be honest with you, and I don't really know that much about them, so seeing them interact with each other was quite cool. And we see all these little fish called scads who are being hunted by jacks, but they actually swarm around the sharks for protection. That was alright. I think that was one of the sequences that I didn't feel I had seen before, but it wasn't a massive sequence. It didn't dwell on it too much. So while it was cool and it was fine, I don't think it was like a highlight for me, to be honest. Then we see bald eagles. So I think this series was always going to have bald eagles. You can't have a series called The Americas that has multiple episodes dealing with the United States of America without dealing with the bald eagle. And to be honest, it was a pretty good sequence. The shots of the bald eagle were amazing. I can't say I've seen a better filmed bald eagle sequence than this. And then we see the ospreys as well. The footage of the ospreys was also great. Watching them dive in to collect fish, actually going under the water. I think that's actually better than we've seen in a lot of BBC series. So that was really cool. Then we see the bald eagles actually mugging the ospreys for their fish because they can't actually dive into the water to collect the fish. That was actually quite interesting. And actually, to be honest with you, that sequence was probably the most American sequence there ever could have been. You have a bald eagle flying in slow motion with sort of classic rock guitar playing in the background. And it's quite, again, and even the fact that they say the bald eagle's bullying the ospreys, and it's kind of portrayed as kind of like a positive skill that it's got, is interesting as well, especially when you compare how America is right now. And to be honest, the bald eagle sequence was really good. I really liked it. If we don't get another bald eagle sequence in the series, I'll be fine with that. And yeah, this is a really good sequence. It's the best bald eagle sequence I think I've ever seen. So that was pretty good. Then we move to the suburbs where we see cicadas. So periodical cicadas emerging from the ground after 17 years, climbing the trees, although not necessarily trees because there aren't that many trees there because it's the suburbs, like lampposts, buildings, the occasional tree, and usually the molting, and then mating with the females and dying overnight, obviously creating a massive amount of sound. This was an alright sequence. It was very creepy. The music when the cicadas emerge is almost like extraterrestrial, and again, they look pretty minging. I think this sequence did a good job of showing you how minging cicadas look when they are molting, so that was something I hadn't really seen before. But overall, that is a sequence I have seen that sequence before, done in other ways. I think the loss of habitat was dealt better in the mating game, which also showed this sequence, but it was still a good sequence, and it was still cool. I liked it. And then we moved to New York City, where we see raccoons. So I think if you think of an animal that you can associate with big cities in America, and New York in particular, it is the raccoon, maybe rats, but no, the raccoon sequence was good. Again, I liked it. It was weird seeing Central Park because I've been there. So that was quite cool. It's always nice to see somewhere you've been in a series like this. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of makes you feel more well travelled than you actually are. But no, this is a good sequence as well. The raccoons were quite cool. Watching a raccoon defending its cubs from a red-tailed hawk, which to be honest with you, I doubt was anywhere near the raccoons in real life. But you know, for the purposes of the sequence, it was fine. And again, the little raccoon getting out and wandering around the park and collecting stuff. That was cool. I mean, again, I did nothing I hadn't seen before. I didn't learn anything new about raccoons, but just seeing them was nice. And again, they're another iconic animal in North America, so we kind of had to touch on them. So yeah, I'm glad we had that. Then we see American black bears in the Smoky Mountains. That was all right. I mean, again, very well filmed, but nothing I hadn't seen before. A female bear taking her cubs foraging and having to kind of chase off a male bear. That's something I've seen before. It's very well filmed. It looks really good. But yeah, it's fine. It's not, anything new. The fireflies as well, that was all right. I think it lingered on them more than you normally would, so you got a bit more of an in-depth look at them. But overall, again, nothing I hadn't seen before. Then we get further north to Maine, which is basically as far north as you get in this episode. And here you don't focus on an animal. That's not how we close out the series. We close it out with the triple oak, which is this red oak tree that's been there for over 100 years. And we basically just follow it throughout the seasons. And what I liked about this sequence was it actually showed you what life was like for a tree throughout the year, showing you how its leaves are green in the spring and summer, how and why they turn brown in the autumn, and then how their acorns fall off and how the tree heals itself from that process. That was really cool. That's not something you get very often. I'm trying to think if there was anything like that in Green Planet or Private Life of Plants, and I'm not sure there was. There may have been, but maybe I'm just not remembering it. But no, that was a really cool sequence, and actually, it was a weird way of ending the episode because it wasn't about an animal, but it was actually quite a cool way of ending the episode. I think it may have been the best sequence to end on, so yeah, I really liked that as well. So yeah, this episode overall is pretty good. I actually enjoyed it overall. As I say, there wasn't much in it that I hadn't seen before. I did a lot of cases that hadn't been done better before, but at the same token, there wasn't anything I didn't like, to be honest with you. I thought everything was cool. I also really liked the music. I liked how the music felt like it was in America, specifically that part of America, and I kind of hope the rest of the series does that, where the music featured in different parts of the world feels like the music from that part of the world. My highlight was the bald eagles, easily. I don't think there was anything else that really came close to that for me, but it was still pretty good. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this episode, what were your highlights, let me know in the comments below. I'll do the next episode next week, whatever it is. I don't know what it's about, to be honest with you. So this is week to week, so we'll find out. As ever, feel free to like, comment and subscribe, or don't if you don't want to, it's perfectly fine. And I'll see you next week, and goodbye.